From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louis Butko.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Tuesday, July the 5th, 2022. The Ticats on the bye week, so let's get right into it with my guest, Luke Tasker from the Ticats Audio Network, former Ticat himself. Luke, happy belated July 4th to you and the family on the other side of the Niagara River there. But I want to start with this one because you're a former player recently, away from the game. How much of this game is mental?
Boy, the classic 80-20, or some people say 90%, the physical is like a given. It's like assumed, or maybe it's almost like way more players than are able to make it have the physical requirements. It is my point in all this is that it's those things are true. I mean, it is so mental. And now anybody would tell you, Coach O would say the same thing. Now is where that mental aspect comes into play, where that mental toughness, because you have to create and believe your narrative in your own locker room and in your own head, or just as a player in your own, mindset and attitude towards the game. You can't fall victim to believing that you're a bad football team or that you're a bad football player. You can't fall into that. And it's just about, Louis, don't you hate when you interview somebody and that player says, "Oh, just got to get back and keep grinding, do the right things." And the problem is because it's kind of, we've heard it so many times, and it's hard to sort of wrap your mind around that. But that's true. They do have to just get back in and keep working. But that mental part, you can't just grind to grind. I mean, the point isn't grinding. It's just that grinding is maybe a proven way of getting what you really want, and that is wins. But you have to believe that the games that you lost and the plays that you didn't make as a player, like the mistakes that you made that helped cause a loss, aren't who you are. It's not what your it's not what your identity is, that you're a good football player, you're a good football team, and that if those couple things didn't go those ways, and if they don't in the future, you'll win some games. So you've got to that's mental toughness, is being able to ignore what other people might, what other people might be assuming. And that is that maybe the Ticats, this isn't their year, or this isn't the right group of guys, or you hear those things and you have to really believe and know that it's true, that that is not your reality. And, in the years that we were able to flip some things around, once you start winning games, that stuff becomes clear, that you see clearly that, wow, like, remember that game back in, Winnipeg, when it was back and forth the whole game, and we couldn't really figure out what even happened, and it felt so strange. Well, look at this. We won a couple games, and it's obvious. We turned the ball over at crucial moments, and didn't make big plays when we had a chance to. And then it's easy to believe. But prior to that success, prior to those wins that you string through after, that's that mental toughness. And that's why so many people can't play professional football. You have to overcome that storyline and believe the truth that you are meant to be here, and that your team can be good if you just stop turning the ball over and start making plays.
And I asked the question, how much of it is it mental? Because, all this week, I just keep coming back to the fact with how much time can you focus on the game that you play professionally, that's your living. How much can you dwell on that during the week that you're mandated to have off? It's a bye week. Players fight for this in the CFLPA, right? So, I mean, I find it so fascinating that these are guys who are doing their job, and I put it right back to fans and say, well, how much do you focus on work when you're on vacation? But you're 0-4, you're things aren't clicking, you're having these turnovers. I find it super fascinating on how players attack the bye week. And I know we've talked about this a lot last season, but at 0-4, is it harder to turn it off?
Yeah, I don't know and I think each year the guys may be different. Mike Daly shared a story on the Ticats Audio Network earlier this season where he, was in the locker room working out all week on a bye week, and he ran into Coach O And Coach O's like, "What are you doing here?" You're like, "Why are you here right now?"
Yeah.
And Daly shared that story like, "Oh wow, maybe I do need to kind of unplug for a second." I I just remember the year that 2017 when we were 0-8, and we turned the first win we had was Labor Day, and it was just following a bye week, and it just so happened. Well, Labor Day is Monday, right? And so we had an extra long bye week because of that, and I think it was a Friday game that led into it. So you have a really extended break time, and so we Jen and I went to Florida for 8 days in the middle of a season. And like I ran on the beach a little bit. I mean, not
Yeah, you're only saying that in case Coach O is listening. I get that.
like a little bit I did, but like
Yeah.
I think I lifted once that week. And I mean, I just chilled hard.
Yeah.
And we came back. I felt fresh. You always have a few things that you're dealing with, and those injuries and things nagging felt better. And like I was just ready to go. We were just gonna have fun, We weren't gonna just go. You cannot just get into a negative mind snowball effect and if you just think that, oh, grind and work, if that's all you've got to go on, well, sometimes you have to change it up and change speed for yourself and your preparation. And I don't know. And that year of bye week certainly helped me, and turns out it helped our team as well. Obviously there was other changes going on at the same time as well, but I'm hoping that guys can come back with a little perspective in a fresh mindset.
Yeah, and we will see. And one thing that stood out to me yesterday, I noticed on Instagram. Of course, I like to keep tabs on players, see what they're up to. So I follow a lot of the Ticats, and it looks like somebody organized a pretty big golf game. I think there was about 8 to 10 guys, and Dane was there, and Stavros, and Mike Domagala, and there was a bunch of other players, and maybe those are kind of those special little moments where you can talk about football, but you're really focused on golf. And it kind of gets into my next question here with Dane and the leadership that he has shown, even at 0-4, a competitor. We've heard it said a couple times, a coach's son. Like, this guy lives and breathes football. If anyone's taking it as hard as anyone in that locker room, it's got to be Dane.
Yeah, and that's cool to hear. I mean, that stuff is it. I wonder if it seems kind of flimsy to somebody, or if it seems like, well, yeah, I'm sure they're having a good time, but does that really matter? And I would argue that it really does matter. Stuff like that. I remember golf rounds when we got, you get 16 guys together or something like that, and it turns into an afternoon of fun. And interesting that you brought that up. After that 0-8, the first day back in Hamilton after that long hiatus in that bye week after we were 0-8, there was a Ticat sponsor had a whatever celebrity, golf event at Redtail, like one of the most prestigious courses in Canada.
Ooh.
And so we all went out and had like a fantastic day out at a golf course where you kind of, an upscale golfing event, where they were really kind of treated nice. And it was just an awesome event that day that kind of kicked off the weeks after. And those kind of things are invaluable. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that the guys who stayed in Hamilton hopefully could get a few of those kind of things going. I mean, you gotta, I used to take the field before a game, and I'd force myself to smile as I go on the field. And then all of a sudden you do that enough, and you control your attitude and your mentality towards it. And all of a sudden you're having fun, even though maybe you had some things you were worried about, or some injuries you were dealing with, and you just force your attitude. And if you're focused so hard on playing football that you forget that you're playing football, and it's supposed to be, it's the most fun job that you could have in the world. I don't know if you're really poised to have a great performance. And so those guys doing things like that off field, I honestly think you get to the end of the season and we won't know, but those guys will look back and that'll be some of the glue that keeps you together.
I just think of any time I play golf with the buddies, like with the boys, you think, Oh man, remember that time on 18? Or like there's gonna be one
Exactly.
story. There's gonna be at least one story that's gonna come out of that that's gonna, be told and retold in that locker room next week and right through the end of the season. And if things go well, we've seen a lot of these reunions lately, right?
No.
Those are the memories that you don't remember the dropped pass or the tipped interception in week 2. You remember
Yeah.
how you spend time with your buddies, and that's what this is about. You said playing football is the greatest job in the world. Talking about football is also pretty good because I don't get hit. I don't deal with the physicalness
That's
of
right.
the game. But okay, let's talk about Friday night because obviously some things did go well. I thought, when they did use Wes Hills, he was productive. He was powerful. He was getting the ball downfield. Stephen Dunbar, Tim White had another big games. What stood out to you? Let's find it. Let's look. Be glass half full. What stood out to you optimistically heading into the bye week and beyond?
Yeah, the run game was certainly the most productive that it's been all season, and I know it kind of paints the kind of sets up the story for a comeback, but they had a 13-point lead. I mean, they had a very productive first half, and I mean, maybe dominant. They did trail in the sack department again after having sort of moved in the right direction the week before in Winnipeg. And again, they were playing up mobile quarterback. Ford was moving around and making some things happen with his feet, but we were not able to get to their quarterback as much as Dane had pressure. I still, they still have things to work through on the offensive line and still fluid, moving parts in that position group. Uh, you know, it's just so fascinating to me. We've just seen, and the crazy thing is we're doing the same thing that we were doing a year ago. We're kind of seeing the first half Ticats and the second half Ticats, but it's the same group of guys, the same team, the same play callers. There's something about the execution that can't come together, but to look for for hope. I mean, that those for the first halves in, I mean, all 4 games have been not horrendous, but specifically in the home games, really productive. I mean, there's hope right there on its own. And, Louis, I don't know if we're, bouncing around this point or if we're waiting, but turnovers. I don't know what else to say.
Well, RJ and I talked about turnovers so much
good.
yesterday.
Okay,
I thought
good.
we could just leave it. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Timely turnovers too. I mean, turnovers, but when they happen,
Yeah.
where they happen,
Yeah.
and the results after. Right? I mean, 2 Dane fumbles. There's the one going for it on 3rd and 1, and Dane to this day will keep saying that he thought he got it, and 9 times out of 10, maybe the ref blows the whistle on that play, but there's at least a 7-point swing right away.
Yeah.
Fumble in the 4th quarter, there's a 7-point swing right away. Turnovers. Again, it goes back to mental. How much of turnovers is mental? The dropped balls, the tipped passes. That's got to be a component of it.
Yep. And the tipped passes, that is 100% a mental. Well, it's a correctable thing in a mental capacity for the receivers who've been on the bad end of those tipped or bobbled catches that have gone the other way. It's actually something that you visualize. You actually imagine yourself, picture yourself making those catches, like what the ball looks like as you see it hit your hands and tuck it away. And then you can practice, of course, jugs machine or with quarterbacks after practice, but it's not just between like the whistles of the actual structured practice. It's not enough reps at that. And you got to do it slow. Like everything in life, it's better to start with the beginner's mind. And when I was practicing breaks and I wanted to really tighten up my speed cuts or my man cuts, you walk through them. Like you imagine like how your ankles handle that pressure, and you walk through and simulate what that's going to be like, and then imagine it and think about it. And the same thing with catching. I remember thinking about catches that would be hard, that would be difficult to make, and just like picturing like what if that ball came at that way, like how could I adjust to catch that? And then sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes you think about something it was so deliberate and you think so deeply about it. And then when that moment happens on the field, you're ready for it. And so, that's what these guys have got to do with those short, hard passes. And then with the fumbles and specifically Dane, and you could kind of think that he's probably already doing this, and that idea of getting both hands on it, before you get into that compromised position with multiple defenders around you, and you have to use every mental capacity you have to protect the football. There's no other. Every single person that's the most important job for each ball carrier on the field. Your team has to have the ball the next play. That's rule number one. And I do expect to see that get better. I really do. I mean, I don't want to say it can't. I mean, fumbles could continue to happen throughout the season, but I expect that we're going to see a change in the right direction with that.
I put this out on Twitter the other day that the Ticats are, if you're a glass half empty kind of person, the Ticats are 0-4 at the bye week. That's not good. But if you're a glass half full guy or person, the Ticats are one game back of first place in the East at the first bye week. I mean, it's not too early to be watching the standings because you're 0-4, but again, full circle moment here at this interview, mentally knowing you're only one game back of first place in your division, despite the start you had. You haven't played a team in your division yet. 7 of the next 8 are against East opponents. Does that do anything heading into week 6?
It does something in the fact that you think about other leagues or other sports, and oftentimes if you're 0-4, your chances, certainly all these guys coming from college football, you're already done. I mean, you don't have that chance to make a run anymore. That really kind of is it. I remember in the Ivy League, there's 8 teams, and pretty much if you lose your first Ivy League game, there's a good chance that you don't even have a shot at the Ivy League title anymore. And you have 8 games or 10 or 9 games left in the season. It's like, oh, okay. It's just not the case in the CFL, and they still got a real legitimate chance. But the time to make these changes, and it's so interesting, Luke, because they don't have to make everything perfect. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to catch every single ball. In reality, the receivers should think that you practice and think about it and tell yourself that. But to win, not every player has to make every single play. They just have to make a few more, and they have to make some corrections. And obviously the turnovers would be a great place to start those corrections. But if they can make a couple little edges, some of these games will go their way. And like you said, in 8 weeks from now, they may be still in a really good position as they go towards the playoffs.
My thanks to Luke Tasker for joining me today. This has been Ticats Today. We're back tomorrow. From all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, I'm Louis Butko. Hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.